Hey guys. So I just wanted to get on here and just share a little bit of truth. I've been feeling a little bit of anxiety because I feel like I've been kind of avoiding talking about my life and what's happened in the last 6 months, and just the fact that I'm back in Utah and I moved home from Texas, and it's really hard for me to not look at it as a failure. But the reality of it is this is where I am, and this is where I'm supposed to be, and the direction that my life has taken over the last year, and especially the last 6 months in sobriety, is completely different than I could ever have imagined. I moved to Dallas on March 9th, and I got sober on March 10th, and that was not my plan. I moved to Dallas because I picked Dallas out of a hat, 5 cities, and within 10 days, I had 3 interviews at different marketing firms and a place to live. And I really was thinking I was going to go there and make a bunch of money and live this high status life where I did city yoga and cocktail hour, and where I was a social drinker that didn't go home and drink vodka by myself. But the funny thing about it is you take yourself with you wherever you go. And I took myself with me. And I can look back now in retrospect and realize that I was just trying to fix my problems with changing my location, and that just doesn't work. So I moved to Dallas. I moved to Dallas. I drank on the way there and the first night I was there. And on that Sunday, I woke up to a flat tire and a roommate that I didn't know, that we tried to change it and drove around on it for probably 4 times as many miles as you're supposed to. And by the grace of God, I didn't get hurt. And I was searching for a liquor store to buy a bottle of wine because I thought that drinking wine made me a classy city Texan, and found out that they also don't have liquor stores open on Sundays. And I just was in a full-on mental breakdown, panic attack, was lonely, didn't know what to do with my car, found a place to fix it, had some time to kill. And so I got this little teeny glimpse of clarity, and I ended up in an AA meeting where I met my sponsor, Sydney, and that's all she wrote. I mean, at that moment, what I thought Texas was going to be for me and what it was actually going to be for me became 2 completely different things. I didn't even know it. So that day I went to the AA meeting, and the next day I started interviewing at marketing firms. I committed to a marketing firm there within a week of being there, and started the second Monday after arriving in Dallas. I started with a corporation downtown, with a building right downtown that overlooked the entire city. It was beautiful. I could see the potential in money. There were dollar bill signs everywhere. And that first week, we started spending time out of the office. The nights were spent in bars, and all revolved around alcohol. I was still going to my meetings at the end of it, and I didn't drink, but I was constantly telling myself this story that I just needed to stay sober for 30 days so that I could become a social drinker, so that I could, fit in this corporate marketing life. And so that's what I believed for a minute. Within the first 3 days of being at that marketing firm, my boss invited me to go on a sales trip to Tulsa. They had somebody who was going who had a family emergency, and so they invited me. He made sure to emphasize that that's a very rare occasion, that he could see my potential and all of these things. And I obviously accepted going on this trip. That was on a Thursday. We were supposed to leave the following Monday. That Saturday, my sponsor and I had planned to go to meetings around Dallas so that I could have some options. Little did she know, I was thinking I was only going to be there for 30 days, and I was just kind of going to flatter her, I guess. That day was monumental for me. At that point, I had been like a week and a half sober, but I was still thinking that I was a regular drinker. I looked around those rooms and thought that I was better than everybody. I didn't think that I had as near a problem that any of those people in those rooms did. So I went to meetings, and the last meeting of the day, we went to a women's meeting, and the last woman who spoke shared about how the best thing that she did was quit her corporate marketing job to go to simplify her life and focus on sobriety. And to be honest with you, I thought she was freaking crazy. I immediately started telling myself, how could somebody just give up their life for sobriety? How can somebody just put everything on hold for sobriety? How can you, like, I'll definitely drink if I'm just, I have nothing to live for. Like, I was living for the potential money that I was going to be making, and the status, and the city life, and the men that I would meet, and all these things. And I just thought, she's so stupid. Like, I thought that. My judgment guns came right out. Well, on the way home, I started thinking about it. It was all I could think about in reality. And I had done enough work on myself that I realized that when I was trying to force something out of my mind, there was probably something I needed to open up and look a little deeper. So I started thinking, and I started to write down why I was so afraid of what she was saying, because that is what it was. I was judging her. I was calling her stupid. I was completely just not wanting to even entertain that idea. And by the end of the night, after spending a lot of time with myself and a long conversation with God and some guidance from my sponsor, I was on the phone with my boss telling him I wasn't going. Not only was I not able to go to the sales trip they had invited me to, but I actually couldn't work for the company, and that I had some things to focus on personally. And that still to this day is one of the scariest moments of my life, but also the surest. There wasn't a doubt in my mind that I was making the right decision, and I had no idea what was coming my way. So at that point, I was back to being unemployed and focusing on sobriety, but I had no idea what that what that looked like. So the next day, I got up and prayed, and I started driving around, and I went and printed off my resume to go find something simple, and I walked into an IHOP, and I got a job serving pancakes. And it was so embarrassing and so humbling, and honestly, I cried because I smelled like syrup and I had sticky shoes. But the next 3 months of my life, I served pancakes, I drank a lot of coffee, and I spent my time not working, at meetings, or sometimes even 3. I would jog to the meetings. I would nap in between work and the meeting. I didn't know what to do with myself. I tried to write, but I had a little bit of writer's block going on. Lots of emotions coming in that I had no idea what the hell to do with. Started working the steps, and that's what I did for 3 months. I think at that moment in my life, when I called and decided I wasn't going to be working for that marketing firm, is I decided to strip myself of everything, because I needed to not only get sober and focus on my sobriety so that I could be all the things that I thought I wanted to be, but I also needed to get to know who the hell I was. And I'm still on that journey, but that is definitely where it started. So for the first 3 months, that's what I did, and it was hard. I mean, there were days that I was like running out to my car in my red collared uniform with blueberry syrup on it because I was so embarrassed that I was back to serving pancakes, and everybody that sat at my table, I'm like, my degree's in journalism, you know. It's like I found out a lot about myself. I found out a lot about the fact that I associate image and titles and status with who I am as a person, and didn't know that I was just as worthy standing there pouring coffee to people as I was working in a corporate marketing firm, but even better, that I was sober serving pancakes. Whereas I probably wouldn't have stayed sober in that marketing firm. So that's what I did for the first 3 months. And then as I worked the steps and made the decision that alcohol was covering up a lot of shit that I had been running from a very long time, when I laid myself out on paper for exactly who I was as a person, and saw where I was such a contributor to the places that I thought I was such a victim, things started to happen for me there. The amends process, the 4th step, just everything. It was hard as hell, but the true happiness and peace that I felt from taking responsibility and accountability for my life was worth it to me. And I knew that if I picked up alcohol, that was all going to go back down the drain. So in the beginning of June, I went to visit Megan, my friend in Houston. I thought I wanted to move there so that I could take advantage of United flight benefits, and I wasn't crazy about Houston. I decided to get up on a Sunday morning as she flew back to Detroit and just drive. And I found a meeting in Montgomery County, the greenest place I've ever been. It was so beautiful, just like what I had imagined, maybe like Alabama looking like. And I happened upon Lake Conroe, and I just had this feeling in me that this was my next stop. I didn't know for how long. I just knew it was where I wanted to be then. So I went back to Dallas, and I gave my roommate some notice, and within a week I moved to Montgomery County. I rented a place for a week, and I knew that I wanted to be on the lake, and so I decided if I wasn't going to be able to live on the lake, that I would live in a tent. I worked on the lake, and I got rid of all of my clothes, about 80% of my belongings. I gave to Goodwill, and I decided that if I could be content and happy with who I was, without TV, without a true home, and living in a tent, and riding on the lake, and unattaching from all of the bullshit that I had attached with myself with for all of my life, that if I could conquer that I could be happy anywhere. And it was a lot different experience than I expected, but I'm glad I did it. There was a couple nights that I slept in my car because I was scared of being in the woods, and there was a couple nights that I couldn't find my tent. So I was literally homeless. I was woken up by the cops a couple nights, and just, it's really teaches you a lot about yourself when you're trying to convince people that you're not a homeless bum when you are a homeless bum. But yeah, that's what I did. But I woke up every day, and I rode on the lake, and I did yoga, and I went to meetings, and I met some incredible people in Montgomery County, some people that I will be friends with for the rest of my life. So I knew I wanted to go home for the 4th of July. I thought maybe I wanted to move somewhere like Colorado that was cooler. I was kind of hyped on this whole, like, I'm in a camp, and that's going to be my house, and I'm just going to do it for a year, and I'm going to write my book and all these things. And I still am hyped about that. Like, there's something really beautiful about unattaching from all the bullshit that we create and put so much focus on in society. But I came home for the 4th of July, road trip through Colorado, with everything that I own in the back of my car. And when I got to Grantsville, I was just going to stay for a week and decide where I was going to go next. And I had an opportunity at a treatment center open up and decided that I was going to trust God and trust myself, and that maybe all this work that I had just done alone and just taking the time to, you know, simplify my life and focus on sobriety and get through those first 4 months, it was time for me to start repairing some relationships and learning how to be there as an aunt and a sister, and just all the places that I wanted, all the relationships that are important to me. So yeah, Texas ended up being my place of sobriety. I love Texas with all of my heart. I maybe will go back someday. I don't know. I really loved it there. But I really felt like the way that things just kind of fell into place when I came back to Grantsville, that a place that I never thought I would return, that maybe it was just time for me to address some more things that I'd been running from, to have a little bit of a support system. I'm living with my grandpa, which is allowing me to do some traveling, and yeah, that's just where I'm at right now. So Texas was where I went to be a millionaire and where I chose to be homeless. And that's my truth. And I did a lot of writing. I did a lot of soul searching. I did a lot of stripping myself of everything that I thought made me happy, and realized that I still really like cute jeans and cute shirt and cute outfits, and I also still really like bubble baths and Grey's Anatomy and all the things that I didn't have. But it was an amazing experience, and maybe one that I'm not done with yet, but I'm done with it for a second. So that's my story, and here I am, and thanks for listening. 6 months sobriety is crazy, and it's amazing, and it's scary, and it's all the things. The one thing I know is it's freaking worth it. And the direction that my life is taking is nothing like I ever imagined, but there's not a doubt in my mind that it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. So that's my first 6 months, one day at a time. Some days suck, some days are amazing, and some days are actually gray, and I never knew what that was before. So anyways, I love you all. Thank you for listening to my journey. Bye.